Welcome everyone to The Rift. I am your co-host, Jeremy Culver, aka Darsay.
And Kyle Gloria, aka Kairu.
All right, and we got him back, as I said last
Yes.
week, that he would be back this week. Kyle, how did you enjoy your time off, and how have you been?
It was good, man. It was of course, I missed being on the show with you last week, but it was a busy week last week. With this week coming up, with holiday and stuff, I was really busy with work, filming in a lot and whatnot. But the holiday weekend, for at least where I live, is over now, and I am looking forward to what's to come this week. And tomorrow, of course, is a day off for my job, so uh, it's nice. It's nice having it.
Very understandable now. The holiday weekend is not over for where I'm at, but it will soon be over, and I will be returning to work as well, which is a very sad point. But anyways, let's get started with, we had a very interesting week when it comes to the LCS over the weekend. And so, Kyle, let's get started with your big takes. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm going to start over in NA. I just kind of want to mention about it. Other than possibly CLG, even though their wins are not like absolutely convincing, like there's still a lot of flaws in some of their victories. But it feels like right when you see a team, as example the Cloud9 versus TSM game, they just look like, oh look, they may have caught just the handle of things. Like they actually look like a team that can compete for that top spot, and a lot of these teams I think can. They go on and lose the next game and look like not bad, but it's just not what they previously performed, and that's just not C9, TSM, C9, all of these teams, man. It's just like they come out with this big performance, look good against one of the other top teams, and then they just kind of falter again. It's just like there's no consistency right now for these teams, and I mean it could be the meta thing. Like teams could still be trying to adjust to what is, what's supposed to work and what's not. We always fall victim to that during this time of the year before Worlds because they're trying to get everything ready for it. But it just seems like as soon as the team looks decent, they just end up faltering. There's just no consistency right now, other than, as I said, CLG seems to be the most consistent currently, followed by Immortals. But still, some games look pretty sloppy overall.
Yeah, that was actually my big take, which is the North American LCS championship, I feel, is still up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as you kind of said, CLG is the most consistent at the moment, but their wins are not impressive where it feels like they're dominating the entire game. They are winning, obviously, but it just doesn't feel as dominant as you would expect normally a number one team to be. Now, this isn't to discredit what's going on, because heading into the split, me and you had said that the competition level in North America was going to be a lot closer.
Yes.
And then in the early weeks, we said that there was that gap that we were seeing. Now we're seeing exactly what we said heading into the season of each team is right there. And it even goes all the way down to the bottom of the pack. Now, obviously, Team Liquid is back in 10th place after, Phoenix 1 gets a 2-0 week and FlyQuest, grab a win. Team Liquid obviously doesn't get a win this weekend. But even in the bottom teams, it seems like things are closer, because Team Liquid looked very good at certain points against Echo Fox. Obviously, Echo Fox ends up getting that win, but then they turn around, have to play, in the their next game, which obviously went up against CLG. Didn't expect them to win that. They didn't win it, and didn't look very good in it. Understandable, but everyone else, they're right there. And then obviously the shocking thing of Phoenix 1 taking out Immortals, that kind of shocked me. But, based off of heading into the split, that wouldn't have been shocking. We all thought Phoenix 1 would be one of the top teams, and they're obviously towards the bottom. But that series, they played like they were one of the top teams. So maybe they actually did recapture their form. Who knows? But the competition level is definitely way closer, and that's why I feel there's no consistency. I feel like what we've been saying heading into the split, and especially in week 1 and week 2, and then finally after week 2 we stopped saying that. But the competition level in North America is widespread, and all these teams are a lot closer than in past years.
Yes, which is it's really nice for us, of course, but at the same time, it's nerve wracking because I mean I'm sitting here in fourth with my team at 6-4, and it's like, all right, we're still fourth, we're still in the playoff hunt. Obviously, it's
Hmm.
Cloud9, they should finish at the top, but it's just like, come on, guys, like everybody else doesn't look as good,
You
and
want
then
them at 2.
you look so good at one point, and Jensen's just having a crazy year, and you look great, and then it's just nope. The next game,
Mhm.
nope. But yeah, it's a lot closer, which is nice. Diggs playing better this split overall. They're right in the middle of the pack with Envy, which is playing really well, which
Mhm.
has a lot to do with Lyra. Like that dude's a monster. And then of course, like as you said, I mean, Liquid look when they finally got their wins as well. Like I think they found a pretty decent group, but you can still see that they need to. There's a lot of they need to still figure out things out, especially when you come playing topper, top
Yeah,
notch teams and stuff.
they,
But
they got to gel still.
yeah, exactly. But I do, as we discussed before, Conquan being in support and what have you. I think it's going to be pretty nice for him. And I think a lot of this, though, like when you look at, this is kind of going off the topic just a little bit before we go over there. I think a lot of this, the reason we're seeing that is because these teams are getting ready for the big jump to the franchising. Because a lot of these guys are signing. I mean, look at they signed a Nori. Are they're
Mhm.
getting ready for that for next split with these big signings?
Well, we'll see how things shape out as we all move forward with this split, and then obviously how things carry out after Worlds. But that is a long way to go. So we have a
Yes.
lot of weeks to go in between there. So Kyle, what's your big take heading out of EU?
Big take out of EU. Actually, I'm going to go with and discuss a single player, a guy that I've mentioned early before in our podcast, but I've got to admit he's playing really well finally, and more on a consistent basis on a team that's really not that great at the moment, but they did get a win over Rocat. I've got to give credit where credit is due. Nuke Duck has finally found a consistent ground, has been playing really well in that mid lane. I mean, he not necessarily caps level right now, but he's up there in discussion with one of the top mid laners right now in EU. He's, I mean, overall performance wise, he seems to be the most consistent in the mid laners, and he's performed well in multiple games now. And even on bad games that the team as a whole has done pretty poorly, his play in game has been, you can see he's kind of hit that stride finally that everybody has talked about multiple times, and even Deficio has mentioned it.
And obviously, if you look at his stats currently, they look mid-level just because remember how poorly they did at the beginning of the split.
Hmm.
So keep that in mind. But yeah, great weekend for Nuke Duck. Depends on who you talk to, though, because obviously, as you did allude to, those were games against Rocat, which I agreed with you. You had them as your, guaranteed pick, Rocat, to beat Vitality, and how Rocat had played all the way leading into that week. I was like, yeah, Rocat's going to destroy Vitality, and it didn't happen. So, who's to say if Nuke Duck has hit his stride? But he is definitely way more consistent this year than in past years, and that's a good sign for Vitality. Obviously, they need somebody to be more of a staple player and can consistently perform when they need it. And Nuke Duck, at least right now, is looking like that guy that can do that consistent play, keep things going, and allow Vitality to have a chance as the games go on.
Yes.
For me, when it comes to my big take, and you know, I'm not, I don't want to, I guess, talk bad, talk bad in the big realm about this team because for a long time they were the champions of Europe, but G2 still does not look like they are at form,
Hmm.
and that's surprising, and at the same time, I don't think a good measure for G2 as a team that's consistently running towards Worlds and carrying in Europe for several splits now. They went up against Mysterious Monkeys and they still did win pretty handedly, but I would say not as handedly
Hmm.
as they should have because of how Mysterious Monkeys have played. And Mysterious Monkeys only has a win because they got that win over Ninjas in Pajamas, who as well does not look good, even though they looked great in game 1 against Unicorns of Love and then falter in games 2 and 3. I don't know what's going on with G2. Could it be cockiness still? Could it be that giving that time off still is an issue? I don't know what is going on, but overall, they are not where they should be, and this does not look good for them as a team, especially when they're trying to make runs towards Worlds. Just to give a quick example before you give in your details, Perks sits currently in middle for KDA in mid laners, and that's not something for Perks. Perks has always been one of the topper guys, and not dying very much. And right now, he's got 30 deaths, which are still pretty close to not dying. But overall, this is not. He's got to step up as well as the rest of the team if they want to, reclaim their throne as the kings of Europe.
Yo, I completely agree, man. I was thinking about discussing G2 a little bit as well, but I decided to go with the single person. But yeah, man, G2 overall has been like we're going into week 6. Like, let's be honest here. We're starting to run out of excuses. You could say, is it Rust still? But they're now going into week 6. They've had since week 2 as a team to play together now. Like it's hard to say, is it Rust? According to Mithy, what he has said is they have yet to be able to grasp the meta as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
What picks work, what picks don't. They just kind of go with what they know currently, and they feel like they're still trying to find what picks is good for them in this current meta. So he has said that that's what's causing the issue, and he still feels they are the best team and they can probably take it by the end. Playoffs come, he feels like they'll win it. But that, I mean, any player should feel that way going into playoffs. But
Mm-hmm.
we're starting to run out of excuses for that team, to be honest. Like, I mean, if they consistently do what they're doing right now, win, lose like this, like, you've really got to start questioning what is going on right now.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this next week will be a big testing for G2 as they do go up against Splice. We'll see if they can reclaim their spot. And at the same time, if Splice wins, then there becomes the argument of, is Splice actually back? So things are very up in the air right now, in my opinion, when it comes to Europe, and especially with G2 wanting to maintain what they've been doing in the past few splits. So,
Yes.
Kyle, let's talk about the big topic for this episode. And actually, you are starting this one. I know, shocker, listeners. But Kyle, go ahead and take away with your big topic of the show.
Well, we go in. I really quick though. I do want to discuss one little thing, maybe little, but over in Europe, I just want to bring up Kreppel really quick with the analyst desk. Do you feel like he is truly missed? Because when I watch the EU games, I'm excited because of the game itself. It's really close, right? And I'm enjoying the games, but after game and during the the shoutcast and stuff, if it's not Deficio or if it's not Quick Shot, like I feel like everybody else has become really lackluster without Kreppel being there, and I really feel like it's really, for me personally, anyways. I feel like without Kreppel's input on the games, I haven't been able to really enjoy myself because he really broke down things. If he was sitting on an analyst desk, or if he was in the booth, calling the games, I feel like some of these other guys are having problems trying to come up with things to say during matches. Where Kreppel was always able, I mean, being a former player, was always able to bring up something, whether it's a certain word somewhere, a gold item, this or that. Like, it always felt like he was involved somehow and could always bring up a topic. Where I feel like these other guys start to trail off things randomly because they really don't know what else to say. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, I don't know, like, I feel like personally watching some of these games, I lose interest just because I can't. Like, listening to the shoutcasting is a big part of it. Like, you want to be entertained by them as well. Do you
It
feel
definitely
that
is.
you feel like that there's a big misstep here, or is it just me thinking like too much like into it?
Well, um, So let me first start off with, obviously, for the listeners, and you already know, but for most listeners, unless you're new to the show, I am a big fan of Crepo.
Mm-hmm.
Always have been, and really enjoy what he brings to League of Legends. And obviously, I do hope, with what happened and him taking a step down, that he can at some point come back to shoutcasting or just being an analyst on the desk. But I will say, you are partially right. When it comes to EU games, I, for the most part, feel like if Deficio isn't there, and yes, at the same time as the play-by-play person, if Quickshot is not in that game,
Mm-hmm.
I don't enjoy it as much. There's one
Yeah.
other guy. There's one other guy that is over there, and for right now, my keyboard is not working, so I can't look him up. But he's also one of the play-by-play guys that I do enjoy. But Deficio, yes, breaks it down well as a former player himself. It's great. Quick Shot obviously always brings a lot of emotion to his
Mm-hmm.
or his play-by-play casting, so that's why he's very enjoyable to listen to. But then, yeah, after that, these new guys that they got as their color shoutcasters are, I feel, are definitely more reserved, and they don't bring a lot of emotion to the game, which is part of the problem. As a shoutcaster, you need to convey your enjoyment to the game and also at the same time convey knowledge. And right now, those guys, they can convey knowledge, but they can't convey their enjoyment for the game. They sound very monotone. Even at the craziest, highest levels of the game, they're monotone, and that's a problem. And then once you get to the analyst desk, I think part of the issue is because Deficio can't be everywhere at once.
Yes.
If you put him in the shoutcasting role as the color shoutcaster, well, then you lose that critical eye in the desk part. Now, there's another guy on the desk aspect that I do enjoy, but he also has a bad problem of not conveying emotion behind his delivery, which is part of the problem. Um, I don't think that Crepo needs to come back in that aspect. Like, I feel like you could still enjoy your games properly if Riot or those shoutcasters identify their weakness and work on building that.
Mm-hmm.
As a person who works in the broadcast industry, spoiler alert for most of those who don't know, I am a TV reporter and multimedia journalist, and I do a lot of different things, and I anchor as well. Um, Being self-aware of your weaknesses on the desk or on camera is half the problem of working on growing. And once you identify or self-aware, then you can work on it and watch it and look at, did this work, this new thing that I try? Did it
Mm-hmm.
not work? Should I do something differently? What else can I do to perfect my craft? Because there is no perfect person when it comes to delivery. Each person always has something. Even if you've been in the industry for many, many years, you usually have something you can still work on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the issue, I think, is that right now, some of those guys in EU just are not self-identifying the problems that they may be
Mm-hmm.
bringing or not trying to improve upon. They feel that they have reached a level of consistency, and once you get complacent, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So I think that's just the biggest thing, is they need to
Is
become self-aware on what their weaknesses are and
Yeah. Nope. Is Vidius who you were thinking, possibly? He's a smaller guy. Like, I'm not saying he's small, but he's pretty short. He
no.
has a very monotone
There's
voice.
Stray Cats. Now that I'm thinking about it, Stray Cats, or whatever his name is the guy I like on the analyst desk, but he just
Mm-hmm.
has a bad time of getting his emotion around it. And then the other one is a play-by-play caster, and I want to call him Pulse, but it's not Pulse, because Pulse is the Asian one. It's something similar to that. It's like a short one word.
Oh, okay.
But he's North American, but is over in EU, and he's also pretty good.
Mm.
But you know, at the same time, the color comment, it's a 50-50. You know,
Yeah.
play-by-play guy is just got to be just as good as the
Exactly.
color commentator, as well as the color commentator's got to be just as good as the shoutcaster, or you lose that, dynamic aspect of listening to the game. But that's my 2 cents
All right.
on on that
Yeah,
topic.
I was kind of curious on your thoughts on it, because I've just noticed watching these games, I've just, some of them getting into it, and it's like, ugh. Like, the game's exciting, but I feel no excitement because they're
Yeah.
not making it exciting. But,
Very understandable.
yeah. But moving on, of course, we are here, uh, and it's beautiful because you and I both talk NA, EU, and now,
All the time.
like, let's be honest, since we're in NA, we're going into um, Rift Rivals week starting on
Yes.
Wednesday.
Keep the
EU,
discussion going. I'm going to step away from the camera
no
for a
problem.
second.
EU versus NA. It's going to be best of one series, round robin, and of course the best record in each group, NA and EU, will end up facing each other at the end for the uh, what I would say the bragging rights. Um, should be really exciting. It's going to be a lot of hype around it, of course, because of our whole NA and EU discussions all the time, especially in Twitch chats. I mean, we get nothing but
Hmm.
like, what gets me the best about this, what I love about this personally, is whenever I'm watching EU games and then watching Twitch chat, and they're like, "Oh, that's an NA flash. Oh, that's an NA play. Oh, it's an NA this." And during a EU game, it's like you realize you're talking about your own players being bad right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is an NA. I mean, I know you're just trolling and going out against NA just because you're all EU dudes like watching this games right now, but like your players are making these plays, man. Like,
Hmm.
I'd be worried, but it's gonna be an exciting week overall. Like I said, 3 days. We have TSM, P1, and C9 representing NA, and we have G2, Fnatic, and Unicorns of Love representing EU, which I would almost favor right now. EU, just because of performance-wise, we're talking three teams at the top, except G2, and then we're talking C9 and TSM, which has looked good at times, but they're in the middle-ish. They're not
Hmm.
dominant. And then we have P1, all almost as bad as Team Liquid, but
But
you never know. They're
they
playing
played more,
better.
they played better the
They're
last few
playing better.
weeks. So
So it's gonna be a real exciting week. So to get in a little bit of it, uh, what do you think about this nice little week break of the LCS? Do you like this? Like in the middle of this, like this, like the little rivalry thing? Like, I mean, I know it's gonna throw them off, but the one advantage I will give really quick, one last point about the rules: they are going to be playing on the newest patch.
hmm.
So, and that was the players' call because they know they're going to be missing a week of scrims.
Hmm.
They figured they use this as time to practice a new patch and bring out some things.
So I will be honest. I'm not a fan of it for the fact that it is middle of the week.
Mhm.
Middle of the season. We already have a mid-season invitational for bragging rights in a sense. Um, and and honestly, this would mean we could technically make Worlds 1 week closer. Like this is a throwaway week essentially. If you look at it, this
Mhm.
is a week that has been used to toss things out so that we can do something like this, and then World stays at its at its current week of wherever it is. But this could easily just be split up, played at a timetable of whenever, or you just start the summer split 1 week later. It's not something that I feel should happen in the middle of the week. If they want to do it,
Mhm.
or middle of the week, middle of the split, if they want to do it, it should go in the midseason invitational right after spring and after playoffs, or after the season's over when it comes to All-Star break and everything like that. Having multiple fat things like this, in my opinion, personally annoys me.
Mhm.
Um, Now that doesn't mean I'm not excited to
Of
see
course.
it or interested in watching it. I am still interested. I still am excited to see what happens. But just the placement of this is the annoyance part, in my
Mhm.
opinion. And then kind of what you said, it takes a week away from these guys to get better at Worlds when all the changes that we've done have been to try to make NA and EU better formatted for Worlds when things come. And you are throwing a week off where it's BS time, X, Y, and Z. And I know some people are going to say, but they need to relax a little bit. Well, that's what the off seasons are for. When the
Yes.
season is going on, this is when you focus Harper down and do what you need to do so that way you can get, the spot or the the run that you want at Worlds to happen. Not have a break in the middle of the season where you kind of BS around and things like that. Like that would be like all of a sudden, to be honest, it'd be like all of a sudden if this week was All-Star week in the middle of the summer split. We would be like, wait, what? Like that is astronomical. Like you can't do that. That we'd have all these discussions, but the fact that it's just NAEU, everyone it seems like is okay with it. And for me, I just have an issue with it from that regards
Yeah.
of I just feel like it's a waste of time. We could either start the split 1 week later, or this means we could have Worlds 1 week earlier and keep the momentum going of whatever it may be.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe the LCK is playing at LPL as well this week. They're doing it in all regions, so everybody's getting a week off like that. But as you said, it could be an extra week. You can move everything up. You can use this time later on. As you said, in
Yeah.
between spring and summer after MSI or anything. But I think NA's fans are gonna look at this as a redemption because, like, let's be honest, at Worlds, I'm just tossing this out there. I believe we're 7-1 against EU, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm just tossing it out there. Your one
Hmm.
little MSI win is, but but overall though, when you look at this though, and you look at the three teams in NA and EU, would you consider, as what most people consider right now, EU the favorites to take this?
See, I would say no, and this is why. As we've already alluded to, how can you kind of compare who is the favorites when you're playing against your own competition? And
Hmm.
to say at this moment that EU is a stronger competition or EU is better because they have better records, well that might indicate that the competition level between these three is not as high versus the competition level that's going on in NA. And most people obviously would say Phoenix won terrible. But remember, last split they were top three. That's why they're up.
Yes.
That's why they're
Hmm.
in this. Big picture wise, they have played better in recent weeks. So who knows what happens once they get over here? And also big picture wise, both sides play different styles. So
Yes.
I'm not going to say that EU is the favorites in like a definitive doubt. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think as the teams have played heading into this, if you're talking about consistency at the moment, I do think EU has the better consistency heading into this. So would I give them the favorites in that regard? Yes. But then again, big picture wise, when I look at this, TSM's been playing pretty dang good recently. Cloud9 obviously up and down, but they're playing way better than G2.
Hmm.
So I'm going to give that the definitive doubt. The only team that heads into this that you have a big question mark around is Phoenix One. And so does that all of a sudden, because there's one question mark essentially going on in NA, and then there's also the one question mark in G2 over in EU, do they cancel each other out? Because that's my standpoint. However, again, yes, big picture, I do have I think that because of Fnatic's play and Unicorns of Love, I do think that they're pretty good heading into this, and I do think that EU will have a good showing here.
Yes.
But I'm not counting out NA because I've seen them over and
Hmm.
over continue to show up when things matter. The only team that doesn't show up when things matter is the team that everyone is beloved for in North America, which is TSM. So this is time for TSM to show up and show why they continue to go all to the worlds and things like that.
Now, one of the things that I've heard discussed as well is the fact that because it's a best of one series, they kind of give EU that advantage just because like Fnatic and Unicorn's love playstyle isn't what everybody else's playstyle is. It's not the we copy Korea, what Korea does we do. Because EU does that too, but Unicorns and Fnatic have their own unique playstyles to them, and
Mhm.
that's I think why they're so good and why they play really well over in EU right now. But and I gotta say, really quick, just to go out to Reckless. I mean, he could still do it, but Kennen was nerfed a little bit, not
Mhm.
major, but he was nerfed a little bit. So we'll see how that works for them without that split push, because I believe the attack speed does not work as well anymore. I believe coming up in this patch is what I was reading on. Um, a little other thing, I'll give you time to think about because I'll kind of give you mine so you got a little bit of time.
Okay.
Um, I actually got this from overwatching in EU because they kind of discussed it. They went and picked their 5 OP players coming into this mix, NA and EU mix. All right, overall, you're in each lane. Who do you feel your 5 best players are? But I will give you time to think really quick
So
and
hold
go
on,
over the
this
teams.
just to make sure that I'm understanding this properly. So, top five NA, top five EU,
Like together.
or okay,
So
so top five
overall,
West,
yeah,
Western.
Western.
Okay.
So I'll start with top lane. I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna favor Visitachi right now because to me, performance-wise, he has been the best top laner out of everybody. Hunter,
Okay.
I love him, but consistency-wise this year has not been there. Um, Impact Ray slash Ray subbing in and out. I think that's why Cloud9 has struggled is because they have not been able to perform like they did uh, previously, the previous split, and I feel like they lost how to play with the top lane. And I it's just Zig and Expect and them. Like I just haven't seen enough up there of them on there. So I am gonna go Vizzy up at top. Jungle, I'm gonna have to give it to Broxa, man. That dude has just been an absolute beast, and he knows how to play lanes. He always knows where to be right now. Overall, like performance-wise, I feel he has been the most consistent jungler as well. Mid lane, I'm going with my boy Jensen. To me, he is the best mid laner right now in both NA and EU. The dude is dominant. I know all you EU fans are gonna be like, "Oh, he's Danish. He's an EU guy," but no, he's playing in the NA region, right? Like, we'll let that be. But
Yeah.
I feel Jensen is the best mid laner currently going in. Perks hasn't been there. Um, Caps has been really good, and I would consider him, but you know, and Exile's been nothing, has done nothing but feed most of the games,
Mhm.
so he's been really weak this year. Um, Bot lane, I'm gonna have to go Reckless for ADC, because I mean, he has been absolutely dominant, and even games that they've lost, his scores have been fantastic. Like he's been really the most consistent out of the ADCs, and support it's been a toss up to me between Jess's and Smoothie, but I think I'm gonna give the edge to Smoothie because I feel like Smoothie has been able to really the wins that they have come out. I think a lot has been because of Smoothie. I mean, he's been hitting these crazy hooks with Thresh. He's a really good playmaker. The one weakness though I do got to give Smoothie right now though is going off and getting himself caught out too much by himself at times when he should have somebody else follow him. As you know, Adam and myself and you always discuss when we play with Adam. Like if he goes ward, he lets us know, hey, you want to come with me so I can ward this bush. Like
Mhm.
and Smoothly doesn't do that enough, and he gets himself caught out too much. But overall, though, I think Smoothie's the better support at the moment. But Justice is right there with him.
All right. So, I'm currently trying to pull up all of my stats because, as you know, I am a very stats-based
Yes.
person. So, give me a second because I have so many dang tabs open at the moment that I'm having a trouble making sure that I got them all lined up with where I want to go. So that this,
Well, while you do that, then, really quick,
yes, go ahead.
who do you feel out of all these teams right now? I know there's no clear favorite because they play in each region. We don't know which region is actually truly stronger and stuff. But who do you consider? overall the favorite to win it coming out? Like just on a
Oh,
basis of play recently and what you've seen.
well, right now, the team that I would give the favorites to is Fnatic. There's the
Yes.
way that they've been
Mhm.
performing and the way that they've been playing, and the Caps obviously coming to form right now. Reckless playing like he always does, but then so as you know,
Oh,
I would
he's.
say recapturing his form,
Mhm.
and then on top of it, you got obviously Broxa playing great and stuff. So that's why I would give Fnatic the favorites to win it all. But at the same time, because of the way things have been performing recently, I would give TSM that next one. I would have TSM at number 2
Mhm.
heading out of here. So, all right. So I'm going to break down real quick, obviously, by lane. And the first one. So now let me just ask this before I start to break it down.
Mhm.
Are you basing it off of the 6 teams to this right now, Rift Rivals, or is this like NA completely,
Nope.
EU
Just
completely?
the 6 teams in it right now.
16, because that
Yes.
changes how I approach this.
Yes.
Okay, so that's why I want to say this. Um, so in the top lane, I wanted to give it to Hanser so badly, I really did,
Mhm.
but I can't. And the reason being is because of that fact, as I just labeled out with Soaz and how he's been returning, played at form
Mhm.
right now, sitting at the top of top laners with consistently playing, because Sendu is still the top KDA person for top laners, even though he played in just the few
Yeah,
games.
I wondered.
But Soaz sitting at the top with a 4.8, and then the big thing about it is just his kill participation is awesome for those guys. Now, he's not the top person for kill participation, but he's at 67.5%. So he has
Mhm.
143 assists in it. And for me, that's kind of what you want your top laner to do. You want him, unless obviously you're going to split push comp, which don't get me wrong, with H2K and Vizicachi, they do that at times. But big picture wise, Soaz is getting in the fights all the time and showing up, which is what's very helpful. And that's why right now, with how he's performing, I would give it to Soaz. The person I would actually have at second is Haunter, even though he's died much more than most top laners.
Mhm.
But the thing is right now is with TSM. They have been putting Haunter more on an island, so he has been getting ganked a lot more, and that's why I would go that. So as much as I did want to give it to Haunter, and I have Vizicachi on my fantasy
Oh
team,
yeah,
so
of course.
it was hard for me to skip over Vizicachi. But big picture wise, that's why I'm going with um, Soaz, and honestly, I would have Haunter second, just to give you guys a heads up. Vizicachi would have been third. Um, when it comes to the jungler position, I gotta give it to Broxa. I mean, this guy is a
Mhm.
monster. I have him on my fantasy team. I picked him up. Playing amazing, very aggressive, and that's kind of what you want in your jungler right now. He's continuing to show up in games. Right now he's at 11.3 in KDA, 5 points above Cersei, which you know I really like Cersei as well with Unicorns of Love, but obviously when you're 5 whole points of KDA above Cersei, that's pretty ridiculous. Um, you know, and then if you even look over in NA right now, there is no comparison. As
No.
much as, there are guys that are doing pretty good. Contracts being one of them, Dardock obviously being one as well, but he's not in this. Contracts is not performing the way that he did last split,
Mhm.
and there is no comparison to
Oh, I have
Broxor.
to say right now, man, is Broxa smash. That dude is a monster.
Yes. He really is.
Like he's massive.
In mid lane, I'm giving it to Jensen, as you said,
Mhm.
playing amazing right now. And the big picture off of that is just the fact of the amount of solo kills, as I would say, off of it. His kill participation is way higher than anyone else. Also, um, some people would say the one downfall for him is the fact that he has 39 deaths. But also, if you want to give that as a perspective, especially if you compare it to Caps, Caps has played in 16 games while Jensen has played in 25.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
KDA is still the same. Obviously, Jensen has more inflated kills and assists because of that reason. But that's why his deaths are also higher. And then the big thing, which for some people is a big deal, some people it's not. Jensen has the highest CS per minute
Oh,
out of mid lanes. Now he's only slightly above Caps, but still, that is with the more minutes that he's played. That also means he has a higher chance of affecting that. That CS per minute because he's playing in there a lot more. Obviously, per game, it impacts Caps more at the moment. But I would give it to Jensen. Jensen's playing out amazing, especially even with how Cloud9 has been performing. That guy, monster.
Oh, I know. And to kind of go off of what you just said, it was a 10-minute mark or 15-minute mark. They threw up the stat. Jensen is actually, I think, has the record for CS lead per 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I believe it was. Like, he has the record right now. He's CSing really well right now. It's when you get that early lead like that, it helps out a lot.
ADC role, it's hard to not say Reckless. I mean, this guy is. I mean, Reckless has always been great, but he is playing outstanding right now, and it's crazy to think that he has through. What are we in, week 6 now, or week
we just
6?
finished 5, so
we'll be heading into week 6.
Yes,
and he only has 9 deaths. Like,
yeah,
that's crazy. And yes, a lot of part of that has been what some people would call a cheese pick in having Kennen ADC
and then Shen top to protect it.
Yeah, some people would call that a cheese pick, but that just shows that Fnatic can adapt and make things work so that Reckless stays alive. Because we always talk about in our podcast and when we play, if you're dead, you can't impact the game.
Exactly.
You are off the map. So keeping Reckless alive, 9 deaths means that he's alive most of the time. And obviously, if your ADC is alive, his whole job is to push down towers. So, yes, it's outstanding. And then again, just to, kind of drive my point home, right now his KDA is at 18.7. The next highest even in NA is Sneaky at, well, besides Stixay, but just for the people going, Stixay's at 5.1 and Senkux is 5.3. So I think that kind of gives an example of just how crazy things are going right now for them in the ADC role. And then when it comes to support, as much as I would give it to Jesus, just because of the way that he is performing with Reckless, I think part of that issue of why he's doing so great is because of the fact of how great Fnatic is playing more than he is impacting the game. The guy that I'm giving it to, as much as I do want to give it to Smoothie, and I'm a big Smoothie fanboy,
yes,
is Biofrost. And that's just because this guy is continuing to perform at a high level no matter what. He's continuing to impact the game with, whatever he's doing on the map. Switching ADCs still plays great. Right now has the top KDA over for North America. As you said, Smoothie does seem to get caught out more this split than he did last split in the spring split. But that's why I would give it to Biofrost. So that's my, I guess, comparison levels when it comes to how things go. But I know some people are going to be like, well, Jeremy, you've already given advantage to EU, so that's why you're going to give the advantage to EU. However, coaching staff-wise, I'm giving it to C9. Because while they still are performing not the best, I feel like C9 continues to at least put themselves in a great form, and their pick and ban phase is really good regardless.
Yeah.
And that's why I give the coaching staff-wise to C9. And I know I threw that in there, but I feel like that's the thing that's often overlooked.
Reaper is excellent coach, and he does so well at adapting to what he sees and notices.
So I feel it's an even 3-3 split.
Yeah, no, I can completely agree. And I will kind of say, too, Biofrost, he's playing with Double Lift, whom everybody knows is great, but this split, like, let's be honest, he's been on a downfall. He is not the same Double Lift. And Biofrost has still been able to do what he has done. So I could see why you would somewhat favor to somebody like Battle Frost that is still playing at a high level, even with their ADC, which can easily drag down the support if you're playing bad. But yet he has still found ways to impact games.
Yes.
So
And yeah, so that's my breakdown of the OP spots all across the teams.
all right.
Kyle, just speaking on the Rift Rivals, as obviously I gave the advantage to walk out of this to Fnatic, and obviously it sounded like you agreed.
Yeah, I do.
Let me just ask you this question, and this may be a no duh, but I do want to ask, who do you think is going to perform the worst out of these teams? And the reason I ask that, let me just, I guess, give a quick precursor, is because obviously a lot of people would have said, and based off record-wise, would go, no duh, it's going to be
P1.
Phoenix 1.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, I alluded to, they won both their games last week, and they looked pretty good in both of those.
Mm-hmm.
So, and G2 obviously not looking the best. So, give me your input, and then I'll give you my thoughts as this breaks down in who do you think is going to perform the worst heading out of this.
I would say P1, but actually the way that they've been performing, you actually just mentioned them. I feel like G2 is going to struggle in this, just because they haven't found their stride, and you're going into a whole new patch. The new patch no one has played on, so and another, just off topic, really quick, is granted EU. This is taking place in Berlin, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So Cloud9 and them were able to leave a day earlier. They were able to leave on Saturday night, where P1 had to leave Sunday night because of the way their schedules worked.
Mm-hmm.
But this is taking place 2 days later. So I'm not going to use the excuse jet lag, but there's going to be some there. But
There will
still, overall, though, just performance-wise, though, as a whole, watching all these teams play, I feel like G2 has been the weakest. As you said, even though P1's record doesn't show it, they have performed really well in some of those games. And Ryu has been up against these guys. So it's not like we have a whole, like, and you're bringing in Arrow and stuff, people are not going to, they're not, because even though P1's played really well, isn't Arrow's KDA, like, or even participation in kills, isn't it pretty decent still? For what he's done?
Let me look up that real quick.
Right.
Arrows kill participation is still 73%,
Yeah,
which is the highest
exactly.
for ADCs.
It's
KDA,
ridiculous.
he's middle of the pack with a 3.8.
But I mean, he's still involved. And that was one of the things we talked about last year that some people overlook is the kill participation. 73% is crazy for your ADC. That's a lot of damage that's being brought out by him. So I feel like that's going to be... I think P1's kind of the sleeper in this, and I think G2's going to be the one that kind of looks silly. And it's not because I'm saying G2's bad, because they're not. We all know G2 has been they've been the force to reckon with for the last couple splits. They are the guys. I mean, that roster up and down is really good. But it's just overall, they have yet to adapt to the changes. And going into another patch that you've got to adapt to yet again, they just have seemed to be the slowest side of the bunch to adjust to it. And I feel like because of that, I think their performance is going to be the weakest out of the group.
And you've hit kind of all the nails on the head, with what I was going to say is just, I feel like the reason why Phoenix won, more so than anything, and why Phoenix 1 is going to perform better than G2, is I still think teams are going to overlook Phoenix 1 regardless in this, thinking that they should be here. And that is a dangerous thing in all sports, when you overlook your opponent and you think, we just got to get past these guys and then we focus on our competition, the next one. No, like, you got to focus on each and every one, and I think that's going to be a big factor. And then on top of that, Mike Young for Phoenix 1 has been playing really, really well, and I think that gives them a whole new dynamic on how they're going to perform heading into this. Right now, G2 has more things they need to figure out, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
While record-wise, Phoenix 1 looks like, they have more things to figure out because they have the lower record. I think G2 has more things they need to figure out right now because while it is the same team and we all expect them to be better, to be one of the top teams regardless, they're not that right now. Exactly. And is that because there's some issues going on behind the scenes? Is that because this team was actually never that good and they just always overperformed? You don't know. And that's kind of that's like the worst thing when you head into something like this, is to have those questions surrounding you and you as a team seem to not be able to even figure it out yet. Because as you said, Mithy is like, yeah, we're just still trying to figure out this meta. And you want to, and at least for me, I sit here and I go, but you've always been one of the top teams since you guys got there. How have you not figured out this meta yet? The best teams adapt to each meta fairly quickly. The worst teams take longer to adapt. And that's why I feel like they have more things going on that we don't know about. And I wouldn't be surprised if for some reason they don't perform the worst and G2 ends up being one of the better teams. I could see that because we just saw what they did with, an MSI doing really well. But right now, things are not looking the best for them. And right now, there's more momentum going for P1 than there is G2. Because with P1, at least when you head into, the Rift Rivals, and you look at the teams that you recently beat, you can sit there and say, hey, we just took out Team Envy and Immortals. Two teams that have been playing great. Immortals obviously was tied for 1. G2's got, we beat Mysterious Monkeys.
Exactly.
And it got us to 500.
Exactly.
That's my thoughts. That's my 2 cents on that regard.
No, yep, I completely agree. And again, as you alluded to, we're not saying they're a bad team. And we're not saying they're the worst, because they could easily be the top team. So don't get us saying this thinking like, oh, G2's bad, there's G2 hating or anything like that. Because I'm a fan of a lot of players.
NA fanboys.
Yeah, exactly. As well as you. It's just out of the bunch. And even if you look, because it's a round robin. So the best in EU is going to be advancing, where the worst is not. And if you look at Fnatic, Unicorns of Love, and G2, just out of those 3, they are the bottom of those 3 teams.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and the one problem, just to quickly bring this up before we start to wrap up things, is we always talked about, since G2 got called up, and they've been the number 1 team, what is the one thing we've consistently said? G2 always gives a game away.
Exactly.
They always give a game away, and then they come back in games 2 and 3 to win it. Well, it's a best of 1. They can't give a game away. And if they do, if that is kind of the tried and true way for them, if they give a game away, then that's 1 loss, 2 loss, 3 loss, they're done. You know what I mean? So you got to hope that they can come out strong in that one game. And right now, with how they have more questions, Phoenix 1, in my opinion, has that quicker ceiling in the game 1, in the best of 1s, than G2 does in best of 1s right now.
Exactly.
All right, Kyle. Before we make our picks, even though we've slightly made our picks, but I do want to just go through our picks quickly again. Is there anything else you would like to discuss in this episode?
No, just going into these picks, I just kind of curious. How do you want because are we basing these picks obviously on the Rift Rivals, since that's what's going on this week?
Yes.
So,
because the season won't pick back up until next week, and we're gonna have another episode next week.
Exactly.
So this is all Rift Rivals picks.
Exactly.
Oriented.
So how do you want to do this? You want to go with the top team in EU and 1 team in NA, or do you want to do that plus the sleeper, or how do you want to?
We're doing straight up
versus
who's coming out for NA.
All right.
Who's coming out for EU? Because we got straight into whoever gets out goes straight to the
Straight in.
knockout stage. Yep. Okay. And whoever wins the knockout stage obviously is the winner. So,
right.
going straight into it. So, Kyle, who do you got coming out of NA?
Oh man, this is tough because the fact that I would like to say Cloud9 because of the recent play. No, not just because of the fact. No. Well, yeah, of course. Part of it is because I'm a fanboy of Cloud9. Always happened, just for the record. But I. But because they just beat TSM, it seems like always next is when TSM beats Cloud9, which would mean it just Cloud9 then will beat TSM the last game. But then if there's a tiebreaker, TSM will beat them somehow. Like it's just the way it is. But I don't know when it comes to internet. Ooh, actually, yeah, it's for sure up though.
It is just first year up.
You know what? TSM, the way they've been performing internationally, though, man, I might go Cloud9 just because of that fact. I want to go Cloud9 going out in that NA, just because of the fact that TSM has yet to prove that they can actually perform on the bigger stage against other teams not from our region.
All right. So coming out, I'm writing it down. You got 3 seconds to change it because my pen's not working right now.
C9.
All right.
Let's do it.
Kyle's got C9. My pen started working. C9 coming out for NA. Well, I'm going to let you know right now. I disagree with you. I'm going TSM. Mm-hmm. All right? And that's just because we already labeled out who's coming out of EU and who's winning it. Uh-huh. So I had to put a little bit of intrigue in here. I'll go with TSM just to make it a little bit intrigued. By the way, I do want to just say, because of our pick'ems, listeners, if you didn't know, I've taken the lead. Yes. 5-5.
Don't worry. We'll change this.
Well, I mean,
we
have not been doing very hot in our pick'ems. No. so just to take that lead and keep that 1-1 going, pretty heavy. All right. So then coming out, obviously, for EU, I got Fnatic. I'm assuming going Fnatic still?
Of course. Like, okay. They're just the most, like, I mean, they're the strongest team. Like, there's no ifs or buts about that. And Unicorns, as well as they play, I feel like when it comes to them trying to match up with Fnatic, I can see still Fnatic taking that.
I will say this. Unicorns of Love is definitely going to be very close in this. And I would be very happy, obviously, if Unicorns of Love makes it through because I'm a Unicorns of Love fan. But I do think because of how Fnatic have been playing, they're going to definitely come out. And because of that as well, I do have Fnatic taking this whole shebang. So
I do as well. They're just, man, that Fnatic team right now, though, has been the most consistent and strongest looking team in EU and NA. They're kind of what TSM looked like when we expected more from them in Worlds, and they disappointed majorly.
Yeah.
So.
But I will say this, listeners and viewers, be expecting a big discussion next week if Fnatic doesn't win this.
Oh, please be ready.
Be expecting a big discussion next week if Fnatic doesn't win this. All right. Well, that is our pick'ems. Just to recap, coming out of NA, I got TSM. Kyle has Cloud9 fanboy. And out of EU, I got Fnatic. He's got Fnatic. And winning the whole shebang is Fnatic from both of us. So we will see next week how things shape up. Kyle could close the gap and tie me back up, or I pull another game lead out. Just saying. I could pull one more game out.
Even if you do this week, don't worry. We will get better at this. I swear. We'll catch up.
we got to just quit being so ballsy with our picks. That's the problem now.
I just want to be that guy to be like, hey, man, I told you so.
Look, we've been breaking this down. We know that this is going to happen, even though we're like, everything has to go right for this team, but it could happen.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. All right. Well, everyone, that is this episode for the Rift. Just want to make sure that you guys are aware, again, if you are listening to this on SoundCloud, we do have a video version of this over on our YouTube page for you to check out. You can find that on the Rift's channel. So go over there and like and subscribe to follow all of the episodes over there. If you still want to listen to the audio version, or if you see the video version and you want an audio version as well, there is an audio version over on SoundCloud. So like and follow us over there. Also, make sure that you are commenting or asking us questions so that way we can get you involved in this show by answering your questions or just using your question as a discussion topic for the show. You can also follow both of us on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at jculver28. That is JCULV as in Victor ER28. You can also find Kyle on Twitter at
TFL Kairu. That's TFLKAIRU.
And I had trouble spelling that last. But anyways, you can follow us both over on Twitter. Follow us, and tweet everything towards us so that, again, asking us questions will get you involved in this show, so that way we can make you guys an active part of this community to continue this show going forward. Well, for the last time on this episode, I am one of your co-hosts, Jeremy Culver, a.k.a. Darsay.
And I'm Kyle Gloria, a.k.a. Kairu. I almost messed up.
Look at that. He's got it. Here, we'll have you restart it. Okay. For the last time on this episode, and this actually is the last time, guys, I am one of your co-hosts, Jeremy Culver, a.k.a. Darsay.
And I'm Kyle Gloria, a.k.a. Kairu.
All right. We've got it down. So be sure to tune in next week as we will continue to bring you the news from the Rift.